Hey y'all, it's your girl Iyanna Pierre-Louis, and you are tuned in to another episode of the Archives of an Alchemist. It is with great pleasure that I'm in your ears and I'm on your TV or I'm on your phone, and I'm very happy because we are migrating and we're putting ourselves on YouTube. Hello, new YouTube family. As someone who not only listens to podcasts, but I also watch podcasts on YouTube, my community of folks do it when they do their walks, or they might watch a podcast while they're on the Stairmaster, whatever that community, I do it for y'all. I do this for y'all. I do this for us. So we are on YouTube and we're going to start posting the episodes that we do on YouTube and record simultaneously. So this is my first time doing this right now. You know, your girl got a bigger memory card, so we could just be able to record our podcast and start marketing ourselves and start believing in the wealth of knowledge that God has given me and the revelations that I've had that have brought me freedom, and how I want to share that with anyone who wants to receive it, who wants to receive freedom, who wants to finally recognize that they're already free. Like, they don't have to strive for it, like you already are. So if you are new here, welcome. Like I said, this is the Archives of an Alchemist, where we turn our hardships into gold, baby. We are here to turn every adversity into a stepping stool for the elevation and for all of the things that God has for us. Like, everything we go through is just another step towards greatness. That breakup is just another step to your greatness. That heartbreak is just another step to your greatness. That betrayal is just another step to your greatness. Oh, people are leaving you, you're losing friends left and right. That's just another step to your greatness, baby. And we have to stop looking at loss as if God will not give us what we lost tenfold, double. It's always going to be a multiplication when it comes to God. So anything we lose, it's always going to be for better unless we believe it. If we don't believe that it will give us better, we will of course never receive the better that's already for us. So let's choose to already believe that we can receive God's best. And I say that all to say because I've come down to the revelation of starting over, the idea of it. And as somebody who is in their big 3-0, big 30, big dirty 30, all of the things, and it's just like, there's just a way I thought life would have looked like for me at this age, and my idea and what I was holding on to, but now realizing the very thing that I was holding on to has been the delay that has been happening in my life. Like, it's been the stagnation. It's been me staying in a stable when the doors are open for the racehorse to run. So it's like, now that I've realized a lot of my delay is actually my fault, I am coming to the terms with the idea of what it means to start over, and the idea and the entitlement, dare I say, the entitlement of not feeling like you should start over because you've experienced or you've done this and you've done that. Feeling like it's so beneath you to start from the ground up again, even though you have all of these things. And that was my thing. And I'm being super honest and super transparent because I think we don't even see how that can hold us back from what God has for us. Like, we don't even see that level of logic is the reason why we haven't pushed forward in our lives, because we believe that there's a certain level of steps that we should do in order to get us to this point, instead of seeing it as we can always choose whatever we want to do. We can always choose another point. There is nothing that we need to stay in. There's nothing that is hooking us to a tree. There's nothing that's keeping us in places other than ourselves. We are the reasons why we don't move 100% of the time, because even your circumstances will never always look like you should feel stable in doing things out of faith. That's the whole point. The point is to be living by faith, and faith is not by sight. So a lot of the times you're not going to see how it's going to work. You're not going to see what is the good that could come from anything. Like, you're just going to look at your personal and your current situation, and you're going to feel like, oh, if this is where I'm at, this is where I'm always going to be. And that was always the problem when it came down to the Israelites, is that even though God revealed themselves in such a huge way and put the plagues for Pharaoh, like if you ever read Exodus, you will know that most of the times when reading the word, it would say God hardened Pharaoh's heart. Like, God hardened his heart. Like, there were moments where Pharaoh was just going to be like, all right, I'm going to let y'all go. I'm going to let y'all go. It's cool. I'm going to let y'all go. But there will be passages where it says God hardened his heart. And sometimes I was like, God, why are you hardening his heart? Don't you want this same agenda? But the thing about it is, God wants the more of the audience, the better. God is trying to get more people hooked with him so that they can have relationship and currency through us. More currency of God in the world than is of evil, because the reason why life is so hard is because evil runs life. Life is being ran by evil, which is why when we come here as light workers and we try to actually be nice and treat people nice, even though we go through things, state our boundaries, even though we're scared of the person leaving, we try to not talk behind people's back, we try not to gossip, we try not to complain. All of this takes effort. None of this comes by happenstance. You have to choose. And I say that I make active choice to do these things, and because I do, it negates a lot of the things that culture deem as the appropriate way to live. Because I was associating with certain rules of culture that were never of God. And the associations would be, oh, I can't do this until I have this going on. Like, I can't focus on my creative things if I don't have my job, if I don't have my PM job, if I don't have my corporate job. Like, if I can't have this, I don't have my own space. I can't do content because I don't have my own space. And always finding like my own blockages for the things that I would do, because I felt like there was a certain step-by-step or a certain rule that needed to be followed in order for me to achieve things. And all of this, of course, is stemmed by trauma. Trauma will have you doing things that don't make sense, and you don't realize they never made sense until you're out of it, until you're out of the cycle, because it's so justifiable. Of course it is. Life is hard, so you're moving in accordance to life being hard. But the thing about it is, you will recognize that God never said life was easy. And when you're in your word, which I will always say, when you read the word for yourself, when you read the Bible for yourself, then you will only attain that knowledge. But if you only receive your knowledge from preachers and priests and what other people say the word of God is, you will fall into the pattern of, what is it called? Prosperity preaching, when they only talk about God breaking you and God delivering you, and your increase is coming in 2 months and you're about to have a new situation in a year. People get off on that because that'll preach. But you know, the real things are hard to preach. The real things is that life is going to be hard. You're going to be asked out majority of this walk, and you have to decide that when you're asked out, you're always going to think highly of God, and you're still going to move in a way with compassion and with the way of integrity. Not because your circumstances present themselves and you feel like you could work and do things the way you feel like you should or need to do because of what your situation looks like. It's you moving in a space of faith, knowing that this is not where I'll always be, so might as well still live with integrity even in this season. I don't need to justify how I treat people by my seasons. I'm a good person because I'm a good person. I'm a good person because God has given me everything I need in order to be a good person, because of the fact that God said He will supply all my needs. All my needs are already met. So if I want good people in my life, I have to be a good person, because that's the only way you will receive good people in your life. You keep getting crust dust because you need to look internally. Are you a crust dust and not even recognizing you are? Because you justify the things you do by the seasons that you are in? That's not fair to your friends, and that's not fair to the people who are around you. And as somebody who has been on the other side of that, and because I choose, I came into a way of thinking, well, I mean, maybe this is just a me thing. Maybe not everybody can do this. And I can, of course, not expect me from other people. However, and what I can do is curate the people that are around me. I do have authority around the people that I surround myself with, which is why God says iron sharpens iron, and always talks about in Proverbs, like, a wise man does not engage with foolish people and foolish things, and like always speaks on how, you know, at one point you're going to let down childish things and become mature. So it's always a growth that we're supposed to be having in the physical realm that is embodiment of our spiritual growth that is happening spiritually. And some people decide to put their cap on where they want to be in life because they don't actually believe they could do and be more, or they've created such a level of comfort with this stage, and because the other stage requires a lot more vulnerability and intimacy, they would rather stay on a more low vibrational stage because it won't require much out of them. And once I realized that, once you get down with the nitty gritty and just realize people just don't want to change because this area of life, it benefits them most, you have to decide for yourself if you're going to stand in accordance to how somebody wants to treat you. And with me realizing this, I'm realizing starting over is even with people that you would consider to be your friends and who you thought would be the people that would land and be in all of the journeys with you and until you die. Like, seeing these type of people as someone's, or people that will be here for the long run, and it's like, it's so disheartening to see what you thought life was going to look like not be the way it is. And I think as someone who felt like I had to see it through, I felt like if I didn't push forward in one area, that's me not seeing it through, and that's not me having faith. But I feel like that was a very false way to look at things, because if I'm looking at things in this way, that means anytime I try to do anything, I will get stuck in that one place. I will get stuck. It's like a mouse in a maze. always hitting that one wall, always hitting that one wall, always hitting that one wall, because I put that wall in that area. I'm the one who put the wall there. And because I now have this level of insight, I have to share, because if this has been operating in my life, I could only imagine how many other people's lives it has been ruining, because this is ruining our lives. We are literally not getting the things that God has for us because we put certain stipulations as to it needs to have these level of steps in order for me to receive that. But God never said there's these level of steps. All God said was to surrender. All God said was to take his yoke because it's lighter. All God said was cast your worries onto me. All God said was give me your anxiety. Don't worry for anything. Look at the birds. Like, they don't worry about how they're going to eat. They don't worry about how they clothe. The flowers, they don't worry about how they're going to bloom. That's what God tells us. But society tells us that we need to work in order to receive these things. And we are outworking ourselves, and we're losing energy for the things that matter, which is the things that God has put long ago as far as what we're supposed to do on this earth. Like, our plans have already been written out, and the capacity that God sees for us has already been stated, what the maximum capacity could be. And it's like some of us just decide to stay at one level of capacity because it will require a stretching, and it will require you to actually face things that are hurtful. Like, if I could ever in my 1,000 years, because I feel like I've lived so many lives, if I could truly be very honest, anybody I've lost, I didn't want to lose them. I was friends with you for a reason. I was friends with you for a reason. So any job that I had is not like I wanted to lose it. Like, I applied for the job and I wanted to be in the job. So it's like a lot of the things that have happened in my life where I've come across loss, like especially childhood home. It's not like I wouldn't want my childhood home that I could have potentially purchased and could have used as my first investment property, which I thought long ago that would be my thing. I thought automatically it would have been my house. I was told that was going to be my house. And imagine it didn't show up in that way. And it's just like a lot of things haven't shown up in a certain way. And dare I say, it's because I had more faith in my own plans than the plan that God written for me long ago. That I already had like a map out as to how things would go for my life without ever consulting God to see if this is the same plan. Like, are we on the same, like, is this our plan together? Like, is this the energy? Because I think that's another thing. If I could be honest, I'm upset that my plan didn't work. I'm upset about my plan not working. And that's what's so crazy and wild, because my plan was never meant to work. Like, I didn't create me. And I feel like God has so much grace on my life and on me, where even though I've run from it, and I've run many years, I've always known that I would eventually have no choice but to do it. I know I wasn't going to be able to run too far. And I think God got me to the point where I couldn't run any longer, and I really had to face myself and really had to see myself in the way that I was operating, and how it was such a limited way of operating on this earth, and it was causing me to stall myself. So now that I have this knowledge, it's like I'm embracing starting over. I'm embracing the fact that I have been presented, instead of me looking at it as a negative thing, I'm looking at it as a wow, I have another opportunity of doing this life. I have another opportunity to put in this version of my life where I'm actually doing my creative ventures, and I'm actually seeking out certain things, and I'm doing things that I love. Like, I'm injecting my life with love. I'm injecting my life with joy. I'm choosing joy. I'm choosing fruitful relationships. I'm setting boundaries and not allowing people to treat me a certain way, and accepting what they give me, and actually having admissions, you know, like an admissions price when you're about to go to a fair, like actually having admission price and expectancies when it comes to me, and like not wanting to be a people pleaser. And if I don't want to do something, like standing on that, and standing on me having a opinion that is not your opinion, because we don't have to have the same opinions. Like, all of these things I learned within the year of me not necessarily having everything physically that I would want. But I felt like God needed to gut me out, first of all, because all that had to go, and I had to mourn that. I didn't even know I was mourning, but the spirit knows. The spirit was grieving. I was grieving that life. I was grieving the relationships. I was grieving all of that. And finally, I'm at a space where my mind is making sense. Like, I could think again. I feel like I was just so disassociated for most of this year because of just like all of the healing and the gutting and the things that were rising to the surface. Me seeing myself, my shadow, the things that I need to work on. The fact that when people tell me or say something about myself, I immediately get defensive, and I immediately feel like I have to prove myself and have to win love and win consideration. Seeing that version of me, seeing that rise to the top and being like, wow, that I don't like how that looks, and deciding to do different and changing and realizing that I can change and that I don't need to have this only way of doing things. Like, I want to live in a body where I'm confident in who I am. I don't want to keep second guessing myself. I don't want to second guess my thoughts and my capabilities. I don't want to be the first person to tell me a negative thing. I don't want to live in that body anymore. So let me do different things, because I can't live in that body and go for the things that God has for me. There's always going to be a blockage. I will not be able to move if my mind is not right. And that was what was worked on this whole year, was me and my mind. And I had to go through a grieving process. I had to let go of the person that I was and slowly discover who I always was meant to be. And it took me losing everything to gain everything. And I'm gaining so much without physically seeing what I'm gaining, because I now realize I have to create my life. Whatever I want in this world, I have to go get it. I have to believe it's already mine, and I have to move. I can't think it's going to come at my doorstep, and I can't think it's only one way to receive it. And I need to be able to put myself in the position where I'm not counting on one 9 to 5. That's ridiculous. I can't do that in this economy. We can't. I need to have multiple sides. I need to have multiple streams just to live the life that I want. I want to live a life of leisure, a lady of leisure. I don't want to be running on nobody's clock, to be honest. I love my slow mornings right now. Hello, I love my time with God, where I could meditate, do my breath work, do some stretching, sit down and actually enjoy a cup of tea, like taste it and enjoy the warmth, feel the warmth of the cup in my hand, like be so present, take walks, take 3-mile walks. Like, this is what life is supposed to be. And I would always see these seasons of where God is giving me rest, God is giving me recalibration. I would always see these seasons as such a negative thing, because I'm not producing. but I'm not meant to produce in this season. I'm meant to receive. I'm meant to rest. I'm meant to crawl. I'm meant to learn God again, learn myself again, create systems, recalibrate, create new software. All of that takes time. And I would try to always rush this part of it and try to rush this season because I feel like I should be somewhere because time says so. But that's all man-made things that white men created while they were doing genocide. White men were creating these laws that we operate in right now. So these laws are never intended to be in our favor. They were in the midst of genocide. So we are not operating on this timeline. We're operating with the word of God. We're operating off of an abundant playing field. We choose if we want to seek abundance or if we want to stay with limited beliefs that we can only get to this point with this method. And if God is so abundant, which they are, and if we are in the likeness of God, we don't need to focus on one way. We have infinite ways of doing and getting and receiving the things that are for us, which is why it's very wise to try different ways of doing things to get what you want. So for instance, like for me, I'm using my gifts right now. I'm doing photography. I'm getting myself out there. And it's just like, okay, I'm trying a different way in order to create what I want. The 9 to 5, I'm not getting the jobs that I want in this season. Okay, let's get a job that we know we will get. Yes, we want to get that job with the 150K salary, and we are so entitled to it. Yes, we are. We've been working for over 10 years. We have all of the justifications, all of the things that I felt that basically entitled me to receive things, but I am not guaranteed anything in this life. I'm not entitled to nothing. There's nothing entitled to me outside of what God's eternity. But God doesn't say we know the overall plan of our lives. Like, we are never, like, it's a word that basically says like something basically, if you want to know the things that you have going on in your life, God's not going to reveal it to you. It's going to be a step by step of revealing and it only comes by your movement. So I noticed once I started doing my podcast, it started to take the veil off of my eyes more and more. The more I showed up, the more the veil came off. Beforehand, I had a system. I was writing scripts because I just didn't want to ramble and I wanted it to be this way. And I also, first, I was just only taking videos of the profound things that I wrote in my scripts. And then, you know what I did? I started talking off the dome because I know I could talk off the dome. I just put things in my head that made me say like, I'm not a good speaker, or I say like a lot, and I have a little twang to me. I'm from Miami, and I also speak with, this is how I talk. Like, I go in and out of cadences. I go in and out of voices. I'm a thespian, drama, hello, Shakespeare, all through in my veins. So it's just like, I realized I don't need to omit certain parts of me. I could bring all parts of me and not take small things and these things. And when I decided to show up and just start talking off of how I'm feeling and just the things that are going on, like when I was really truly authentic, I felt the most relief, and I also felt the most self-accepted. I was like, wow, God, you really created me to be super deep. I have so much depth to me. And I only would know this if I did the podcast. If I kept living and just kept seeing what I have as rambling, or I'm too sensitive, or I'm too deep, I look into things too deep, like what people say, and never took the chance and say like, but I feel like I've learned so much that I have to share. Like, I can't keep this to myself. I'm healing so much and I'm learning so much while I heal. It's a disservice to keep all of this information that's freeing me. I have to share. And God wasn't going to let me go into any other season without sharing. Because it got to the point where nothing was working for me. So I literally had no choice but to pick up the things that I've always said I couldn't pick up until things worked for me. And because things weren't working for me for some time, and this is according to my definition of what things working out even look, because they weren't showing up in a certain way, I never moved. I never took the steps. And things are coming to the surface because I'm also in the midst of, I'm also doing tolerance breaks for a lot of things. And it's providing me I feel like so much more wise. Like when you're fasting, like I feel I'm so tapped in right now. And of course I could always be more tapped in, but what I can say is like, I just feel it. I feel what the vibes are. It's just another level when you fast. And I really encourage that on anyone's spiritual journey to do that, because the level of alignment and the level of connection and the level of rhythm you're having with God is at another level where you're able to see things in the spiritual realm, and you're able to have new perspective. Because one thing God said, or was it David, where it was basically like, renew my mind, like renew my mind. Like renewing your mind basically means having new perspective. That's a renewed mind. That's something that God gives to us for free if we ask for it. God said if you ask for wisdom, he will give it to you. So it's just like we have so much more access to knowledge that will help us live more sustainably in this lifetime and not burn out on things that were never created for us to be burnt out on, because we already have so much knowledge and we have so much wisdom that's accessible to us. And the wisdom that I realize is that I am in my JT era, and I'm only bringing her up for the spectrum of, she was in a girl band, and imagine she got a feature, she just came out, she blew up, they blew up, and then they get a feature of Drake got them on a song while Carisha's in jail. Like, this is exponential growth. These girls are from Miami. These girls from the struggle. It would have seemed like it just happened overnight, but of course a lot of time came into it. But when they blasted. And unfortunately, the group is having whatever issues they're having, and Shorty had to revert and create her own fan base. So when people saw her doing club appearances and all of the things, everybody had something to say. Everybody wanted to talk about, oh, she's over here doing club appearance, because people don't understand that sometimes, aka most of the times, you can't be afraid of starting over. And sometimes, aka most of the times, it's from the ground up. Because the version of you, the way, your trajectory, this storyline only took you this far. So you can decide if you want to be in the same storyline, or you could choose another storyline. You don't have to see it through. If it's not revealing in the way that you feel like it should be revealing, you can pivot. And I now see it and know it so clearly. So it's like I am fixing my mind and making sure God renews my mind. I'm protecting my energy even so more, because I have to hold on to the promise, and I have to hold on to the idea that I need to be in a sustainable energy in order to create my life. So other things can't be bothersome to my energy. I have to be holding on to it as if it's the snitch in the Harry Potter movies. I have to hold on to Shorty. I can't let my peace be taken, and it's gonna offend people and people might not like it, and it is what it is. But one thing about it, I am living this life for myself, and I have to preserve myself. We have to preserve ourselves. How else can we give onto others? We can't be a great vessel if we're allowing people to just tarnish us and allowing ourselves to tarnish our own selves. It's because if you really love yourself, you're going to treat yourself better. Like, that's what love is. Love, you can't say you love yourself and you let certain things that hurt you happen. Like, that's conflicting to what love means. And now you have to check, what does your definition of love, like, what is it? Is it based on how your parents gave you love, which was transactional? If you do this, good job. But if you're bad, like, if you don't do what I specifically tell you to do, you're a horrible person, you're selfish, you're this, you're that. If your love has always been like you had to perform in order to receive, then you'll always think you have to perform to receive from God. You have to we have to realize that love is already ours. So we actively choose to believe in love, and we actually believe in the love that seems so far-fetched, that seems so hard, that seems like it's incapable of being here because we don't see it. But that's because you have faith that the love that you want exists. So we're willing to work and wait until you receive it, because you feel like it exists. You feel it in your heart that the way this person does me, I don't like it. I don't feel safe. I don't like how this makes me feel. You feel that in your heart, but instead you tell yourself you have to suppress it and you have to bury it down because of all of the other times you've been silenced. All of the other times where people tell you your emotions are too much. So it's like, it's a lot of things you have to work on the internal level for you to even see what I'm saying. And that's why I will always revert and encourage folks to start with that first. You can't get to this without already having this level. And I feel like, I might have people from different crossroads of their journey. Either they're starting and thinking in this way and they're trying to move differently. And then there's also people who've already started establishing boundaries and they're seeing the dynamics of their lives change in result of the boundaries that they're setting, and they're mourning that. So I do want to make sure, like, I still tell folks who are just starting the journey, like, you have to work on the mind and you have to work on the belief in order for you to even think that you can start over. Because if you don't believe in yourself, because you see that this thing is not working in this way, instead of seeing it as this storyline just ends here, like, this is the end of this, like, let's do another storyline. If you see it as the latter, you won't feel like this defines you. You won't think that this is an indicator of failure of who you are. It's just one part of your story that is no longer, this is the furthest it could take you. This is it. This is the furthest, as far you can go with this storyline. This is where it ends. Are you choosing to keep repeating this, or are you going to choose option B and try something else and try something that's different and try different ways? And if that doesn't work out, after some time, give it actual effort, then pivot to something else with new insight of who you are when you were in that season. I only know myself according to one season that I've done. I never tried anything outside, so this is new groundwork for me, and I've never really saw it through with an other option. I just felt like I had to see it through in that option, and that was hurting me. So now that I know, okay, it's not that I don't need to see it through, but it's actually put the level of effort to see if anything comes out of it. So that is also another thing to mention. It's yes, start over, and you might not see your stuff in the first month, the first 2 months, but give it an honest try. Give it a year. Give it an actual true year, and then you can make your movement. I will say I've gave myself a year in this space, and because I'm building evidence, of course, the timeline of that is going to be shorter. But a year for me was enough in this maturity level that I have to be like, okay, we have to do something different. We got to try some new shit. Like, this is not giving us what we think it should give. And it's been a year. So we got to do something different. We got to repivot. Like, this is it. This is the end of this act. The story is done on this. On this end, the chapter is done. So now we're in a new chapter. We're in a new set of the book. And it's like, we're going to give it an honest try. And don't be afraid to try. JT, I'm sure she probably had her thoughts. I just did Coachella. I just did all of these things. But she had to get it out the mud. She had to go back to them clubs. She had to try to make TikTok songs to get it popping, get on her era, create her own fandom. All of that takes work, and you have to be okay with being seen trying. You have to be okay with saying, like, I'm starting over. I tried that part of my life, didn't work, but it's okay. I'm gonna try again and try another part, and be okay with starting from the ground up, because all good things need foundation, first of all. So I feel like all this year was really me building foundation to even be able to move in the way that I'm moving right now. I couldn't move without the healing first. And since I finally got that healing part, it's time to move, and it's time to actually apply the things I've learned, and not only be a sharer of things that I've learned, but actually be a doer. And this is me. I'm gonna be doing, and it's gonna be hard. I'm not gonna run before I walk. But one thing I will say is I finally am on my legs. I was crawling for a long time, but I'm on my legs. I'm doing this. I'm getting on YouTube, which was a fear that I didn't want. It was a limiting belief that I had on that. I'm putting out my business, and I'm putting myself out there and actually saying, like, I'm a subject matter expert. Like, I'm saying that I'm a SME. Because I am. I have a decade of wisdom. I have a decade of learning this. I've experienced a lot of loss, and I've moved forward in different ways. I've experienced different industries, and I've learned a lot. I've acquired a lot of knowledge, and I have to see the things that I have as valuable things. I have to see it, or I'll never move and I'll never share. So because of that, we're starting over. We're background up, and we're gonna push it. Whatever it takes is what it takes, and it is what it is. There's no shame, because at the end of the day, Joseph didn't go from the pit to the palace. Like, he went from the pit to the palace to the prison to the palace again. David, he was anointed for king. He didn't just start becoming king as soon as he was anointed. Same thing when it comes with Paul. Homeboy was blind for 3 days before finally being able to see it and finally becoming God's biggest writers in the Bible. Y'all have to understand that everything is going to come with the ups and the downs. And the downs don't define you. The downs are just part of your story. And you can choose to keep pushing and find another pivot and find another way to do things, and know that God is still working. I'm so sure David hearing that he's about to be king, but he still was a shepherd's boy. Becoming a shepherd's boy to being a king, like, God didn't tell him that he would actually be having to run for his life, having to be exiled once he's actually king because he killed somebody. Like, he didn't tell him all parts of the story. He just said, you're going to be king. And I feel like I know God has so much for me, and I'm seeing that, and I'm frustrated because it's like I'm not there. But it's like God is doing the internal gutting and making the environment necessary for when I get there, I'm in a space where I can thrive, and I'm not operating in any other field outside of the Holy Spirit, outside of the will of God. Like, nothing is operating me outside of God, and that's exactly where they want me. And I'm finally surrendering, and I'm picking up my creative things, because sometimes it's just picking up things to see if they're gonna work out. Like, don't already say something's not gonna work out if you don't try. That's not fair. So picking up things and being okay if it doesn't work out, at least you know that's not always in the back of your head, and you could now open up new space for a new thought and a new idea. Come on, y'all. I feel you, because I'm saying that to myself, but this is literally how I have to talk to myself, because I'm operating from a level of limiting beliefs. So if I keep doing that, I have to talk to myself and remind me verbally and out loud, like, girl, the rules are fake. The rules are fake. And the rules are fake. You can start over at whatever age. 100 years old, you can decide to change your life at 100. Who cares? It's your life. It's your agency. You don't have to play the same script until you die. How disappointing. How disappointing. And I get it now. I now get it. I thought it was so cringe and so corny when people would be like, the wealthiest place is the funeral. But I understand, because I was headed in that direction. My funeral, and if I didn't do this, would have been me not ever doing the podcast and seeing that through. Never doing the content and seeing it through. Never actually putting myself out there as a photographer. Not actually trying to learn how to learn Spanish and actually want to learn multiple languages and never see that through. There would have been so many things that I would haul into my deathbed and my cemetery, along with other people who come with their dreams and their goals and the things they've always wanted to do, but never felt like they were justified in just doing things just because it brought them joy. Like, never really seeing that joy can be theirs if they choose. I was headed there, and that's just the programming. That's the programming. I was so unaware, and I'm so glad that God shook me up and turned me upside down and able to give me a new way of looking at life and looking at it as, this doesn't define me. And I had a friend who told me, and I had my therapist who said it in a way that really unlocked my brain. And it wasn't even my therapist for real. It was just an initial consultation call, conversation before they even pair me with my therapist. So it's like, I had that conversation with him, and it was so timely. It was so timely. Within the same week where my Uber driver was named Jesus, Wednesday my Uber driver was named Moses, and on Friday I got on the call with another Jesus. Wednesday was when I was told that I'm looking at my life in a negative way and I'm letting things define me when they don't need to define me. Like, I don't have to be defined by what I do and the timeline that I feel like things should look, because it's painful and it's hurtful and it's keeping me in the same cycle. And that was me coming from that realization after him just saying, like, I think because you see this as a negative thing, you are letting this define you. And when he said that, it literally opened an arch in my brain, bro. And it was, God really be talking, and God will talk to other people. This is a white man from Texas. I didn't even know if he was racist or not, girl, because you never know. White man, born and raised in Texas. I'm having a conversation about all the things in my life, and he was able to provide insight that has freed up my mind in order for me to be open to the infinite possibilities that were always mine. And this is my recent revelation, which is why I'm going to move in new ways and not be only a sharer, but also a doer, and being so focused on what the hell I need to do and how I need to get out of my situation that however it happens, it is what it is. It is what it is. Whatever I thought is up in the air and has been combusted into smoke. So I am actively choosing, like, if it don't look like how I want it to look, that means there's another option that needs to be explored, and that starting over is not a bad thing. It's a life you can choose for yourself once you realize it's already there for you. So you don't have to be in this loop. You can have freedom. And I want that for you. I want you to have freedom, bro. I want you to have perspective that frees your mind and causes you to move in a way that's so much more sure. Because you deserve that. So with all love, thank you all for tapping in. It is always your girl, Iyanna Pierre-Louis. And you have enjoyed another episode of the Archives of an Alchemist, where we turn our hardships into gold. And I'm just so happy that I was able to share that revelation that has freed an entryway in my brain. Because like I said, if I'm going from, God, when are you going to send me to this job? And going from, I will just create a job, I will create money, I'll create a flow. I can only see what will come. Like, I'm gonna learn so much from this journey. I'm gonna see so much about who I am in this journey. And I feel like a lot of people are not able to see the different versions that they can be, because they want to stick to one version of who they could be, instead of embracing all that you can be in this lifetime if you do so choose, and realize that you have it to choose from. So I say that was all love. I say this with all love, and I wish you have I wish you have, child. I've been talking so much today. I've been talking so much today. So anyways, I wish you all have a beautiful rest of your day, rest of your week, and if I never see you, a rest of your life. But hopefully I see you again. Truly and honestly, it's your girl. And if you haven't already, please like, comment what in the video, like comment down below exactly what you specifically are starting over. Like, what are you trying to get another knack at? Like, I really want to hear your thoughts. Like, what is something that you've left years prior that you have always had a nagging thing in your thought that makes you want to pick it back up? Like, what is that? Like, let's talk. Let's have community. Let's actually humanize our experiences here, because at the end of the day, we don't have to do one way. And I want you to be free from that. I want you to know you have choice. Like, you're not a tree. You can move. We have no roots. The only thing we need to put rooted is internally in God. That's the only roots that needs to be occurring. Our feet are not rooted, because God would have just made us a tree if we were meant to be trees, right? Come on now, duh. So I say this all to say, choose the life you want to live for yourself and believe that you deserve it. And that's how I'm going to leave you. I wish you the best. Mwah. The Alchemist.